In every organization, no matter the sector or size, there's a group of people who seem to exist just slightly outside the spotlight. You won't find them quoted in the strategic plan or featured in the newsletter, but if you were to remove them even temporarily, you'd feel it. Meetings would get awkward, deadlines would drift, small things that used to just happen would start to fall through the cracks. These are the load bearers. The term might sound off at first. It risks sounding like a euphemism for those who simply do grunt work, and that's not quite what's meant. Load bearing is more intuitive than that. It refers to the kind of work that isn't formally acknowledged but is nevertheless essential. It's about showing up early, not because someone asked, but because you sensed that the room wasn't quite ready and needed some extra setup. It's about knowing what version of a slide deck your boss needs based not on instructions, but on their mood. It's remembering who doesn't like to be surprised in a meeting, who will derail a conversation unless gently guided, and who responds better to a phone call than a follow-up email. Load bearers in any organization are critical. Their background work isn't about manipulation. It is about attunement, emotional intelligence, pattern recognition, the ability to read a room, yes, but more than that, to read the people in the room over time, across meetings, moods, seasons. These are the people who deliver their input not for applause but for effectiveness, who do the extra thing, the adjustment, the reminder, the check-in, because they've learned that these little things prevent bigger problems later. What makes load bearers stand out, ironically, is that they rarely stand out. Their work is embedded in the rhythm of things. They don't broadcast it. They don't need you to know everything they did to make the moment smooth. It is enough that it was smooth. And this is where things get tricky. Because the very qualities that make them essential, discretion, adaptability, quiet foresight, are often the same ones that get overlooked when it's time to promote. Leadership, as it's traditionally recognized, still trends towards the visible. It's the person with the bold ideas, the confident delivery, the unmistakable presence in the room. It's the voice that carries, the one who doesn't hesitate to claim ownership of outcomes, and load bearers are rarely this loud. If you're paying attention, you'll notice something quite fascinating about the role load bearers play. You'll notice that the bold ideas were often shaped in quiet conversation, that the outcomes were scaffolded by people whose names weren't on the slides, that the clarity in the room was made possible by people who cleaned up ambiguity before it ever made it into the meeting. And if we're honest, most organizations are better at remembering who delivered the message than they are at noticing who prepared the space for it to land. This isn't a call to overcorrect or hand out praise for every behind-the-scenes effort. It's just an invitation to notice, to consider whether your idea of leadership has room for this kind of work, to ask yourself who in your organization is holding the fragile and documented parts of your culture together, and whether you've ever asked them what they need to keep doing it. Here's a reflection for the load bearers, many of whom don't even use that language as a descriptor of their function, many of whom wouldn't call what they're doing leadership. It is leadership. It has always been. This kind of presence, this kind of translation work, this attentiveness to what is needed before it is spoken, that is leadership. Long before we gave it a title or put it on a resume, this was the work that kept people aligned, kept systems intact, and made difficult things feel possible. And for the rest of us who benefit from their dedication and hard work, maybe when we think about who to trust with more responsibility, we do well to remember the ones who kept the thing steady when it could have fallen apart. Not because they asked for recognition, but because they saw what needed to be done and did it.